This is the Big O Show. This is the Big O Show.
All right. There he is, the Canadian Bond.
I think there are a lot more worthy Canadians than myself. Ryan Gosling, for one. Who else? Canadian actors. Ryan Reynolds. Is he Canadian? I think he's Canadian.
Those guys.
I don't know.
Those guys don't bring your edge. Get out of here.
Shuck it, Trebek.
Who is your favorite Bond, by the way?
Well, I'm going to preface that by saying I was never a big Bond movie guy, but the most of the movies I watched with Roger Moore would be my pick.
Okay. Yeah. I never, if somebody tells me Roger Moore or Sean Connery or even Pierce Brosnan, I think those are all worthy of your number one. The other guys, nah, not so much. Not so much. Why is it that you weren't a big Bond guy?
It's not my genre. So after a while, I like totally got away from like adventure type of movies like that, where 17 million obstacles are going to be thrown in the way of the hero, and he's going to go through all of them and wind up victorious at the end. And it's just, I don't know. I prefer comedy, a good drama, good documentary.
Well, that's why you like Roger Moore, because he was actually kind of funny. Like he had a sense of humor. Out of all the Bonds, he probably had the best sense of humor of them all. So yeah, he was always kind of a guy that was kidding around. All right, the NFL has now asked and gotten into this investigation with Tyreek.
I knew they would.
Yes. But the more we get to hear about this kind of stuff, again, we got to see it ourselves. But now you're reading the police report, and this just does not bode well. And if the video does match the police report, Tyreek's going to be missing some games.
Which is what the Sun Sentinel reported, that they were saying that the video does support the allegations made by the boat captain and the employee. We just actually put up a story on alldolphins.com with the latest updates, and Omar did the latest update, did some research on it, and his research is the last time there was an issue with similar circumstances, it involved Pac-Man Jones, who got one game. So if that's the fact, and Pac-Man Jones was also a guy who at the time had prior issues, prior run-ins.
9 arrests
with
in
the
his
law.
career.
Correct, with the law. So I still have a hard time this is based purely speculation.
Right, that's all we can do right now.
On what's been reported, that I kind of be surprised if it was a suspension of any major length.
I think he gets a game.
Okay.
I think he's out for the Chargers game. That's my prediction. Is that from what I'm seeing, if this is true, if the video matches, and he did smack the guy and he offered him $200, and if the guy did have to go run into the office to protect himself, it's just once people see the optics, the video of it, the NFL is going to have to. It's kind of like the Ray Rice thing. Remember, they first did 2 games. Nobody had seen the video. And then once you saw the video, it was, oh, and so obviously this video is not going to be like Ray Rice's.
Correct.
But there is going to be a video of some kind of an assault. And so once that happens, all bets are off, and then the optics take over, and then the NFL is going to have to respond to the optics. So I just kind of feel like if this is true, he's definitely gone for at least the Chargers game. That's what I think.
No, that's one would think. Playing the speculation game, yeah. If he, again, based on what we're hearing, if you got to wait without any suspension, yeah, a little dicey there.
Yeah, exactly. And the other thing that I was talking with Matt Verderam about this, and I'll do the same thing with you here. He obviously has got to show better judgment. But he now brought this problem onto everyone else on the team because your job now is to ask Mike McDaniel about it. And then your job will be you're going to ask his teammates about it. And then if he does get suspended, it gets brought up again in that Chargers game that week that, hey, he's out and this, that, and then you have to adjust and all that. And so then it becomes another talking point. So this is something now that will have its own life now because you have ignited it. So it's not just your own personal problem. You just brought it on to everybody else. Now everybody else has got to answer your questions too at the same time.
Yeah, except my take on that, and I've been very consistent with this. My opinion changes on a lot of different things. Mm-hmm. I've already been consistent that the notion of distractions when it comes to professional athletes to me is way overblown, and they're not going to like having to answer questions. They will be asked questions.
That's my point, that they're not going to like being, and it's not that it'll have anything to do with you losing. It's just a pain in the ass that you have to answer it. That's all.
No, yeah, but you're talking like the first press conference that Mike McDaniel does at the start of training camp. He's going to be asked about it. Probably the first or 2 days of training camp, they're going to be asked about it. First time Tua talks about it, he's going to be asked about it. More than likely, all of them are going to defer. No, it's going to be like, don't want to touch it. We're focusing on, what we have to do and all of that. And then a week later, and then if and when there's a suspension that comes down, that's going to be asked one day and then done. I mean, it's obviously a bigger issue for the Dolphins to me without having if they have to play a game or two without Tyreek. Obviously, it's not the same offense.
Yeah, no, definitely not. It's we were just talking about it earlier that you'll bracket Waddle now.
Yeah.
Now you can bracket because you can't bracket either guy, and if you do, then you're opening yourself up big time. So now you will bracket Waddle, and then you're going to force everyone else, to beat you. So. Mm-hmm.
And if you remember the Chargers game last year, the Dolphins didn't do a whole lot offensively, and their 2 touchdowns were 2 long plays by Tyreek, one on a long pass, and the other one when he picked up that fumble and ran around the defense.
Mm-hmm.
So,
what happens with Cedric Wilson this year? How's that handled? Because you can't cut him, but you want to use him, but then again, you've got all kinds of other guys now, on the roster, and one guy in chosen that maybe could end up taking your time, also overall. If you're the Dolphins, how do you handle that situation? Because, even Tyreek admitted last year that he didn't know the whole playbook. So I'm sure that was also an issue for this guy. And so you were, competing with other guys that already knew the system in Sherfield and Craycraft. So you were already at a disadvantage as a backup receiver. You're not getting the frontline reps so you can learn the offense. So now you're a backup and you're at a disadvantage. Now you should know the system in the second year now, like everybody out there, because a lot of players don't know the entire system in the first year. Okay, so now you should know the system. But everything's kind of established in front of you. And there are other plans because that's why you bring Braxton Berrios here, because you figure he is a ideal slot type receiver. So if you're the head coach, you're going to have him on your roster, Poop. So what do you do to try to maximize it at least while you have him on your roster for one more year?
Yeah, I'll be honest with you. As I sit here right now, I have a hard time seeing him taking snaps away from Hill, from Waddle, from Robbie Chosen, from Braxton Berrios.
Right.
And
I get it.
I might even make the argument. I think the Dolphins, in an ideal world, might prefer. I think Eric Ezukama has a different skill set that is more different from whatever else they have as opposed to Wilson. I think right now you're looking at a very expensive insurance policy where he's at the back of the roster. If somebody gets hurt, a wide receiver, they have some injury issues there, he steps up, he gets a chance.
Or suspension.
And if everybody's healthy, I have a hard time seeing him getting a whole lot of snaps. I really. And
well, he might get some in week one, right? He might get some in week one. If Tyreek is out, then maybe he shares a little bit there at that point, right?
Except he's still an option after Waddle,
Oh no, well, I don't know, but it's the other guys. It's Chosen and him really, because it's not a slot thing. They're not going to play him in the slot. I think they'll play him on the outside. It'll be him or Chosen filling in for Tyreek, but it'll probably be Chosen at the moment because Chosen's the one that's looked much better.
And he's also a more established kind of guy. And in the meantime, while all of this is going on, the Dolphins are going to be monitoring what's going on around the league, hoping as much as you hope for another team's bad luck, but that there are injuries that hit a team hard at wide receiver and they get a phone call for a team ready to bite the bullet and take on Wilson's contract.
Yeah. Yeah, that would be nice. I doubt it'll happen, and I think it'll be I think they can unload him, but they're going to have to do it in the way they did with Ryan Tannehill, where they picked up some of the salary in order to get the draft pick. And I think you might be able to do that with Cedric. Nobody's going to take on his whole salary. There's no way, because he never got to prove himself with the new contract. So nobody's going to pay you since you haven't proven it. But I think the only way that you will be able to unload him is where you're going to have to pick up. You're going to have him on the roster anyway this year, right? Taking up a roster spot. Well, if you can pick up 60% of his salary, but yet free up the roster spot, then that at least alleviates a headache for you. You know what I mean?
And yeah, I think I mentioned that earlier, that I wouldn't be 100% shocked if that's what they wound up doing, especially if they like the progress that Alzugaray makes in training camp too.
Yeah.
Because they really like, I know McDaniel really likes River Craycraft. And right now, River Craycraft is number 7 if they keep Cedric Wilson. Right. So I could see a scenario if they really like what Alzugaray is doing in camp. They're like, okay, we'll bite the bullet, eat some of the money from Wilson's salary, and get a late round draft pick in return.
Not only that, here's the sad part, and it's not Cedric's fault because of everything that worked out after he signed, but now he becomes a detriment to your team. Because if you do like what Alzugaray is doing, and you're really comfortable with Craycraft and all of that, if you have to keep Cedric, you might be forced to let go of a receiver that you like.
Correct.
You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And so now and plus Cedric has no future with you. So you'd rather go with the younger guy that you still have under contract and you control to be one of your backups instead of you paying a high salary for a guy that's not even going to play pretty much. You know, it's kind of crazy. And he doesn't excel on special teams. Although
one great punt return in Buffalo. Yeah.
That was clutch. That was like a 50-yard return, I think, right?
Was it on the nose, 50 yards.
Yeah, man. So, yeah.
No, and it could be also that the Dolphins are going to let training camp play out, see where they are with their own status at wide receiver in terms of injuries, because injuries can happen to another team. It can happen to the Dolphins too, where by necessity he'll have a spot on the roster. The one good thing with Cedric Wilson is he's a good dude. Even if he winds up on the team not having a role, which was kind of the case last year, you didn't hear a peep from him.
No, he's a classy dude. Yeah, he handled it very well.
Problems, and that's not always the case, especially for somebody that you went out and got as a free agent and then got here, and all of a sudden, 2 weeks later you got Tyreek Hill, and that completely shattered his whole.
Look at the Heat during the season with Dwayne Dedman. He throws that massage gun out on the court. He's pissed, and then they had to get rid of him, and they had to even use a 2nd-round pick so somebody would take the player and the salary off their hands, and the problem too at the same time. Poop, they just took a shot at you. Karoon says Canadian bonds would be screwed if he has to put out a forest fire. That's just wrong, Poop.
Yeah. Wow.
What's wrong with your people, bro? They don't know how to put out fires. What's going on there, bro?
I don't know.
Oh, you guys are using liquor. That's not it. By the way, Poop, you guys can't be putting out fires with liquor.
With beer, with Canadian beer,
bro. What kind of hosers are you trying to use beer to put out the fire, bro? Come on.
Bad ones, apparently. And you're talking to one of the few Canadian male adults who doesn't like beer. So
yeah, it's true. That's true.
That's Canadian.
That is Molson. The Molson family's kind of pissed at you, aren't they? Like, you're not really representing Canada the right way.
I should almost take off the hat, actually.
Yeah, I mean, you're not into beer. That's very un-Canadian. Are you allowed to even be a citizen if you don't drink beer in that country?
I had a little hearing where they were threatening to take away my citizenship card, and
That's why you're really here in South Florida, isn't
yeah,
it? That's because you didn't drink beer, and they said no, you can't be here.
they kicked me. They kicked me out.
You can't be here if you don't drink beer.
There you
So
go.
yeah, that's what ended up happening. Um, the Dalvin Cook situation. I mean, we talk about it all the time, but
Mhm.
it just gets. We're getting closer and closer to him signing with the Dolphins, right? Because nobody else is offering him any big money, so he's going to take that team-friendly deal from the Dolphins, right? Is that what your gut tells you?
Yeah, but not in June. Not the first week of July. I still say he signs right before training camp or right after the start of training camp. Once he assesses the situation, the offers he's gotten, the offers he's not gotten, and all things being equal, he signs with the Dolphins.
Okay. Do we know anything about the Dolphins and how they're handling the gambling situation that's gone on in the NFL? We got our guy from the Colts betting that his teammate, props in rushing, and he's making some money. So obviously, you can't bet on the NFL, and you can't bet on other teams in of course NFL facilities or other sports in NFL facilities. So what are the Dolphins doing to make sure nobody does stupid shit like that in the building?
Well, I think they're done now, but once the offseason program is over, they still have the rookie orientation. This is why you see like some social media posts from the Dolphins of like their rookies doing some camps with kids and all that. It's all part of the rookie orientation program. This is basically a welcome to the NFL life with all sorts of lessons about becoming an NFL player. And I am sure the Dolphins drilled big time into those rookies everything they needed to know about the gambling policies around the NFL. One would hope they did the same thing with all of their players when they were there for minicamp, especially since that started coming up. Beyond that, I mean, other than repeating and emphasizing to your players, you may like gambling, don't do it. It could cost you a lot of money, it could cost you your job. And repeating the same message over and over again, you're not holding these players by the hand. So ultimately, you have to depend on them to do the right things.
Devontae Parker. Are you surprised that the New England Patriots re-signed Parker to a multi-year deal, extending him and giving him, what is it, like $14 million guaranteed for the 3-year deal? That's a lot of money.
It's interesting, and because you look at his metrics again, I saw a number
not very good.
No, again with separation, he's like he's been last among wide receivers, I think 3 straight years. But he can make catches, contested catches, and if you look, that New England wide receiver core was so bad last year, and he actually wasn't the worst. I mean, Jacoby Meyer was a solid player until he had that brain fart at the end of the Raiders game. And then you notice scuttlebutt out of New England is that doesn't take him out of the DeAndre Hopkins sweepstakes. But to answer your question, a little bit surprised because he was okay last year. Didn't exactly put up huge numbers, and I don't know that they needed to do something like right away. I mean, he was heading in the final year of his contract, but they could have seen how it played out. But good for him. And you look at, like I tweeted yesterday, by the end of his contract, he'll have been in the NFL a decade plus. So we can say what we want about what kind of player he became, but you have a 10-year plus NFL career. I mean, doing something right.
Is there a receiving core in the AFC East that should make the Dolphin fan nervous when you have Holland, X, and Ramsey in your secondary?
Receiving core, I think the one...
Well, receiving core / quarterback to make it even juicier for you.
Well, yeah. The Bills have the potential of having a great passing game. I think the addition of...
one receiver.
But now they have 2 tight ends who can do some damage. If you remember what the Patriots used to do with Hernandez and Gronk, they got Dawson Knox and Dalton Kincaid, which changes the dynamics, and it makes for a lot easier throws for Josh Allen, who doesn't have to chuck it as much as he did last year. They're dangerous. Gabriel Davis was supposed to be a breakout star last year. It didn't happen at all. He had some drops. Well, if you remember at the end of
but what I'm saying, you're totally right about what you're saying. Is I went like this because we got X and Ramsey on the outsides. Gabe Davis doesn't scare me when if you have a healthy X And Ramsey's fine. I'm not worried. I'll give Stephon Diggs his respect, but Gabe Davis is not a guy I'm really worried about with those elite corners out there. If you have some of the young corners that they have backing up, okay, then yeah, I might be a little concerned. But with those two elite corners, bro, man.
If you match him up, man on man, I'll give you that one because Gabriel Davis doesn't have the route running ability. Diggs is going to win some battles against.
No, Diggs is the shit. No, I'm not. He's a petulant little kid. Obviously, he needs to be coddled like crazy. He can play, bro. He can play. He can play.
But I think the two tight ends now, it's a whole new set of problems there. And the Jets have really good wide receivers. I'm trying to think who their tight end is now. I don't even know who their tight end.
Their tight end's decent, not like this scary player, but he's decent. He's a serviceable player. I'm brain farting on his name now, but he's a decent player. He's not bad.
Do they have Ozuma? Is that CJ Ozuma? Is that what it is? Yeah, they do have good wide receivers, and
they're trying to get Corey Davis they want to get Corey Davis to take a pay cut, apparently.
Sounds familiar.
Yeah.
And that could be
Corey Davis has been, since he got to Tennessee, since he got drafted, he's never really reached that potential that everybody talks about. He's never really reached the pinnacle of his physical abilities, because I won't deny it. I've watched the kid. There's no doubt he is blessed with ability, but he has really yet to put it together on a consistent basis to get some of the respect that they give him that he really hasn't earned. That's just me.
No, I agree with you. He's like, right? he's like, if you look at him and he's like, man, he's a solid wide receiver, but
right.
Dude was like the 6th overall pick. And then AJ Brown comes into Tennessee, and immediately you look at AJ Brown, it's like, oh, that dude can play. And then
that's a beast.
Yeah, you never had that with Corey Davis, but if he's your 3rd or 4th guy, that's pretty good as a 3rd or 4th guy.
Yeah. I'm not sure if any receiving core really scares the hell out of me. And then I'll continue to ask you every week as time goes on, Dalvin Cook becomes more a Miami Dolphin, right? I mean, that's just the way it looks to me. That nobody's offering him any money. He's not going to get any great offers out there. Miami's offer is going to be a team-friendly one, but I don't think much of a difference is going to be out there, and he's going to take the no state taxes and the hometown team, and he'll take the 1-year deal. I think it's almost a done deal pretty much at this point.
But to me, the big X factor is we get close to training camp. The Jets evaluate Breece Hall, and all of a sudden doesn't necessarily look great for how quickly he can get back to being rookie Breece Hall. And then the Jets decide we have too good a team around Aaron Rodgers to not maximize our potential, our ability to contend. We're going to up the ante and raise our offer to Dalvin Cook, and that's the team I would watch. I'm not necessarily buying Denver, although Denver's in the same boat. With Javonte Williams, but they're not at a contending point like I think the Jets are.
Denver needs him more than anybody else, actually. Denver's the one that really needs him.
Javonte Williams' injury was more severe than that of Breece Hall, but Breece Hall still a torn ACL. And I think the Jets are going to have to. That's the team I would keep an eye on.
The only difference is when I look at Breece Hall and I look at what Denver has coming back, there ain't no comparison. Breece Hall is a special player, dude. I hate to say that because he's a Jet, but I call things like I see it. Breece Hall is special. Denver doesn't have anybody close to that guy back there.
Well, Javonte Williams is good, except he's coming up.
He's a nice player, but Breece Hall is a star, bro.
I agree.
Breece Hall is a star. I got to give him credit, bro. That kid, wow. That kid's special, man.
No, and the Dolphins got an eyeful of him when they played in October last year.
No, he's a stud, bro. Yep. You got to give you give people credit when they deserve it, and Breece Hall is definitely a freaking stud. All right, what else are you working on Sports Illustrated so folks can check you out, my friend?
Well, we're keeping tabs on the Tyreek Hill situation. I got my countdown of the top 75 Dolphin games of the 2000s.
Right.
Today was 61 to 65. I'm going to put out questions for a mailbag, which will be my last mailbag for a couple of weeks as I'm heading out on our annual family vacation. But
yeah, we're gonna miss Poop here for about a month. I think he was telling me. So he's gonna be gone for like a month. So we'll get somebody else to fill in for you for the time being.
Yeah, but Omar will be holding down the fort at alldolphins.com. There will be stuff every day.
He should make up his mind. One day he says the cap doesn't exist, and then the next day the cap is going to be a real problem. I'm trying to figure this out with Omar. It's just like, and when I bring him on, he does the same shit to me, and then I call him out for that. One day he says the cap doesn't exist and it's all phony money, and then the next day he's writing an article like the world is coming to an end by 12 months from now, and it's like, bro, relax.
Dude, you cannot dispute the fact that the Dolphins. I mean, dude, they're like, what's the number? 31 million over already.
I'm the one that says the cap is serious. I'm just going by Omar that he's the one that constantly says the cap isn't serious, and then now he writes this article like the world is coming to an end in a year from now.
It's serious in the sense that you can kick it down once you start the process of putting together like big money pieces. You can kick it down the road for a while. At some point, the bills come due, and then you have tough decisions to make, which is what happened to the Saints at one. Although the Saints actually did
the Saints, the Baltimore Ravens. By the way, when they won with Flacco, everybody wanted to get paid, and guess what? They couldn't pay everybody. And once you paid Flacco, it took a whole bunch of people out, and then they didn't have the same team. After that. So dude, I am well aware of it. I talk about it, but he's the one that tells me, "Oh, that's bullshit. The cap is not real. It's phony money." And then here he writes an article that the Dolphin season is going to close in 1 year because it's over. The window closes after that, which I don't really believe that, but that's all right.
I think they have 2 years.
They draft, bro. They know how to draft.
Well, they're going
to be able to turn over this roster and bring young players in. There's something that I'm going to be working on over the weekend for Dolphin fans that it's already in the works and people don't realize it. But
tease it. Go ahead. That's the end of the tease.
That's the end of the tease. They're already working on something for the future, and you don't even talk about it. Nobody sees it. Nobody really acknowledges it because you're all lost and you're all drunk in the present like we should be. But I think the front office, while they're working on the present, they're also working on the future too. And that's something that I want to talk about over the weekend. So that will drop over the weekend. It won't be on this show.
Okay.
So, yes. Okay. So there you go. All right, bro. Have a fantastic weekend. Appreciate you. By the way, the Cure was awesome the last 2 nights. I don't know if you're a big Cure guy or you like the Cure. You do?
Yes, very much so.
Favorite song of the Cure is?
In Between Days.
Ooh, nice. They did that, actually. Yes. 2 nights ago. They did In Between Days. So, yes. There you go. All right. Good stuff, brother. Appreciate you. Have a great weekend. We'll catch up next week. Right now, you're here next week, right?
I'm done.
Oh, next week you're out?
I'm out.
Okay. All right. So, next week you're gone. All right. So, we'll see you in a month. Be safe.
Good.
All right, brother. Appreciate you.
Have a good one.
There you go. The one and only Alain Poupart, baby. Getting it done with our EJDconstruction.com Miami Dolphins report.
This is the Big O Show. This is the